Hello, hello, family. How are you guys doing this evening? I am phenomenal. And welcome to my podcast, Roots and Rebirth. I am your hostess, Miss Afia Rise. And today we're going to be doing our Q&A, which I am known for to do at least weekly to answer your questions pertaining to you, your family, your challenges, your goals, and to essentially help you find your way. Now, this is also an opportunity to vet me as a life coach. And yes, I did say as a life coach, I have been coaching professionally for 5 years and I specialize in um, the guidance of women and I also do couples and sometimes families on occasion. So, this is the opportunity to vet me in real time without having to invest your coins, without knowing what I'm capable of, getting a feel for how I do things, how I explain things, my perspective, and just my overall character and experience. I would say when it comes to coaching, it tends to be more of an at-home feel, like talking with a very honest friend who is in it for your well-being and your development, but also your biggest supporter. Good evening, Miss Teresa. How you doing today? What's going on, Deshelle? How are you guys doing this evening? I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. And basic rules for the Q&A are as follows. The questions, you can ask anything that you would like, but it has to be pertaining to you and yours, as in yourself, your husband, your relationship, your desires, your goals, your children, your challenges, your spirituality, your perspective, your confusion. As long as it revolves around you and the things you see and the things you feel, it could even be indirectly asking a question for a friend. I'm here for it. The only thing that is off limits is questions pertaining to myself. I talk about myself a lot, so this is the time to shift the focus for me from me to you. This is not a curveball or I don't want to talk about me thing. It's just you guys are my followers, you guys are my supporters, and sometimes it needs to be all about you. So help me out by making sure that your questions are detailed and clear and focused on you so I can focus on you too. You guys are more than welcome to start putting your questions into the chat. We will be here for an hour. So we will be offline at approximately 8:30 Eastern time. So I am ready when you are. Let's see. Everyone is well. What's going on, Lavonda? Everyone is well. Thank you for asking. Also, and I always forget this part, I really have to get in the habit of doing this because I have to remember I'm also streaming on YouTube. Hit that like button and please follow and share and subscribe. I love it when you guys participate. It gives me something to pull energy from and manifest and deposit back into the conversation. So I appreciate that. What's going on, Terry? And thank you for the copyright disclaimer. I appreciate that. Yes, but everyone's doing well. Everyone's doing well. We have a few celebrations coming up. My sis Jamie, she is having her birthday on tomorrow. My birthday is coming up on the 27th. So Aries baby all day. It's going to be a celebration going on over the course of the next week, starting tomorrow. And then that will lead us into baby girl Mayana's birthday in April. So we have a lot of celebrating between now and then. So I'm excited. Decided to get married at 56. What is your advice on keeping my marriage upbeat? First of all, Latanya, congratulations. And I would say do not get caught up in the stigma of people telling you you're too late. You chose this man. He chose you. So enjoy him. Allow him to enjoy you. And I would also like to say, whatever you have not experienced and had the privilege to explore within your life previous to this marriage, experience with him. Oftentimes, we set goals for marriage and we're like, I can't wait to get married. And, you know, for whatever reason, a lot of women get married and they don't do the things that they set out to do. There should be things that you reserved for the man you was going to be with forever. I don't care if it's fantasy wise, trip wise, just opening up emotionally wise. There should be something that's worth unlocking when a person marries you as the husband and or a wife. So if there are places that you haven't gone in your previous relationships, if there are things you haven't done, this is the man you're going to do it with. Like, live out this marriage like you're not going to have another one. We for whatever reason, even though we say until death do us part, we still live out our life like you will have other opportunities after this. And you shouldn't leave a marriage and you still have things that went untouched. To me, that's crazy. I think if anything, you should be reserving yourself. Like, I want to take that trip with my husband. I want to explore that part of my body when I get married. I want to experience doing this for the first time. This is a hobby of mine, but I think I want to try that out when I get married. When you get married, there should be some first time occurrences that have been reserved for that man or that woman. You shouldn't have touched everything there is to touch by the time you say I do. So if you have anything on reserve, make sure you let that man know, I've never shared this with anybody. I've never done this with anybody. I was saving that for marriage, because the later in life you get married, people assume everything's been done. So it is a privilege to get married and know you are still the first somewhere. You know what I mean? So whether it is you are the first person to make me feel safe, you are the first person that I've truly trusted and put my guard down with, tap into all of those places with this person. Put it all on the court, put it all on the field. Don't hold anything back. When you get married, you should be in marriage fearless. You shouldn't be in marriage with hangups. Oh, what if it doesn't work out? Like, this is go mode. When you get married, take the shackles off, take the boundaries off, take the walls down and say, I'm going to invest, because your fear will destroy that marriage. You holding back will destroy that marriage. You not wanting to extend yourself out as far as you should be available will change the trajectory, change the energy, change the tone and the feel and the dedication and the devotion of that marriage. When you get married, there shouldn't be a whole lot of, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to do this. You should be open for experiencing the world with your partner. Even if you've experienced it before and it was a negative experience it again with the person you chose. Deshelle says, how to find balance in keeping your individuality amongst being a couple. Ooh, That's a very good question. And it's actually really challenging. The first order of business is ensuring that your partner wants the same thing, because a lot of times what happens is you one person is in love with their individuality, and they're with someone who has not established any individuality. So they define themselves off of being with you in every aspect of the relationship. So when you have the strength or the courage or the desire to do things independently, they take it personally, like you're trying to separate yourself from them. Like there's something that says you don't want to be around me. It becomes a personal thing. But when when you're with a person who's equally as much of an individual as you, they understand. So there's no argument and there's no fuss about that. So the first order of business is being with somebody who gets it, because that's half the battle. You don't have to explain it to somebody who wants the same thing. But if you're already in a relationship and then you realize you are in a relationship with someone who's less of an individual than you have to sit down with them and really communicate that to them. And I'm sorry to say, but in real time, it's hard for people to understand, because you have people who are individuals, and then you have people who are very much a couples person, like dependent couples person. Like, we do everything together. The idea of being separate is not a thing. They consider that the start of a breakdown in a relationship. And they have a very codependent personality type. Unfortunately, that you probably won't change them being codependent in the same way they won't change you being an individual, or they view you as independent. So you will have to sit down with them and really have a detailed conversation as to what that means for you. That your freedom is a thing for you. You being able to venture out and enjoy your friends outside of your relationship, you needing to have hobbies and an identity outside of the relationship. This is what will contribute to the relationship thriving. If you insist on not giving me my autonomy, the relationship is going to go in the opposite direction that you want it to go. And you just have to be kind of honest about it, because if they think you can be flexible there, they will impose their will there. And eventually you're going to get tired of it, and the boundaries will come into play. Then the consequences for those boundaries will come into play. Then breakdown in the relationship will come into play if they don't adjust. So you have to have the conversation to let them know that some people are like cats. Individuals are like cats. You leave the gate open and they come and go as they choose. They go hang out with friends. You learn to love them by experiencing them. When when they want to be with you because they're with you. When they want to go do something else because they'll go do something else. They're very genuine and authentic in how they exist. Individuals are easy to understand, versus somebody who may be codependent. That's typically as a result of a trauma. So they like being up under you for emotional security. But if they were to become healthier in that state, they may want something else. You see what I'm saying? So individuals typically have gotten their confidence. They've been out in the world. They know what they like, what they don't like. They've already established their hobbies and desires and group of people that they enjoy. People that are more of a homebody or codependent have not explored that. So essentially, their partner is all they have. That's why the reaction is what it is. So a conversation is completely crucial to have, so your partner has an understanding that it's not personal. It's how you navigate life, and it's how you enjoy your experiences within that life. It's not a means of rejection. It's not a means of lack of desire. It's just how you experience your own life as far as your identity is concerned. What's your name on YouTube? My YouTube is the same. It's Roots and Rebirth. I love that advice, because it's never too late to find and enjoy love. Absolutely. How to allow a man to lead without losing your voice as his helpmate. Whoo, Deshelle, you got the questions for me now. Honestly, this there is no way to accomplish this without a man who is equally as understanding. Um, Allowing him to lead looks like trust. Um, but hmm, trust is consistently demonstrated. I was getting ready to say trust is earned, but trust is consistently demonstrated. When there's opportunities to earn trust and they're consistent, like consistency earns trust. And when somebody establishes consistency, you learn their patterns. So you have no reason to second guess. You have no reason to overthink. That's what creates the phenomena of submission is consistency. So finding a man that is consistent, finding a man that does what he says he's going to do, and you don't have to keep reiterating what needs to be done. Finding a man who initiates without you having to ask. Because I think that's a big miscommunication between women and men as well, is that men oftentimes say, all you have to do is ask me. But women, the way we understand it is asking you is a job as well. Women want men that are attentive, which means you pay attention to things, which means you notice. So if she also has to manage children and manage the house and, manage the doctor's appointments and change the diapers and do all of that, and then she also has to delegate to you the things she wants to be done, that's a job in itself. And then the thought comes into play. These things would not get done had I not asked you to. Had I not made the request, they wouldn't have gotten done. Women respect and are attracted to initiative, taking initiative. It is a highly masculine trait. So typically with women, when they are not allowing a man to lead, when they're not in their submissive self, one of those things are lacking. So leadership qualities need to be present. Leadership qualities look like not only being proficient in knowledge and wisdom and being able to speak eloquently, but meeting the people who are under your leadership where they are. So understanding how they receive information and knowing how to communicate to them where they understand, not just being proficient and knowledgeable and saying, well, if you don't understand what I'm saying, that's your problem. That's not the equivalent to good leadership. Leadership leads by example, not by demand. So very little needs to be said when you're living out the philosophy that you live by. It's a very very respectful quality to see somebody that moves in the business that they would like for you to maintain. A person that's always on time and demonstrates that they're always on time, when you catch it and you realize that they're always on time, you automatically know that they respect time. So if you want their respect in the area of time, you need to respect their time by being on time. You see what I'm saying? Nothing needs to be said or communicated. Also, again, consistency, doing what you say you're going to do, being dependable. So allowing your word to speak for itself. A woman needs to know that when a man says, I got it, I'm going to do it, she doesn't have to think about it anymore. If she still has to think about reminders, if she still has to think about writing it down to make sure it gets done, if her next thought is, you're going to forget, so let me go ahead and do this as a backup plan because I'm going to have to remind you to do what I asked. That creates instability for her. A woman wants to tell a man she has an issue, and because of his nature to want to resolve and fix things, when he says he got it, you don't have to think about it in your brain. You don't have to hold space for it in your brain anymore. Women's biggest issue is the mental load. So being with somebody that can free her from having or remove some of the burden from her having a mental load, that is someone she will allow to lead. So, how to allow a man to lead without losing your voice as a helpmate? The answer to that is the biggest part of the answer to that is choosing a man that's equipped to lead, because oftentimes we get distracted by choosing other characteristics, and then we forge a relationship and realize they're not exactly equipped to lead. So now you don't feel safe, you don't feel secure, you don't feel heard, you can't verify consistency, you can't verify being dependable. So now you're just in this limbo, and when you're in that limbo, that creates an environment of high stress for the woman, high stress and anxiety. And when a woman is in high stress and anxiety, she doesn't sleep well, she's irritable, she's not in her bubbly self, she's not in her submissive self. When we are in our feminine, we're in our body, we're in our sensory, the sensory aspect of ourselves. We feel, we enjoy, we like love, laughter, beautiful pictures, puppies, kittens. When we are in stress, we live in the mind. When we're constantly living in the mind, you can't allow a man to lead because you're always watching, calculating, so on and so forth. So choosing a man is a big, 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 big part of being able to allow him to lead. Because once you pick someone with those characteristics we just discussed, you don't have to spend time in your head. You have to spend time, you actually want to spend time in your body. As a result of spending time in your body, you will relax. You will check out of your brain and not spend time thinking so much. You will allow yourself to enjoy your surroundings instead of evaluate them. And that in turn will allow you to be more submissive. Now, if you are a person, I heard you say, without losing your voice as his helpmate, this is a quality you must obtain within your mate as well, because there are men that are very traditional that do not want to hear the opinions of women, and they want just your trust and you to be on board with their program. You have to have somewhat of a mix of a traditional man that has somewhat an alternative value as well, because you have men that want to utilize their partner as a partner, and they will get the game from you. They want your opinion, they want your feedback, they want your knowledge. And then you have the ones that feel like less of a man if they depend on that. So if you have a man that feels less of a man, if he depends on your voice in any way, you're going to be fighting for that for majority of the relationship, because likely you're at the age where he's set in his ways and that's who he's going to be. So you need to be with a man that values your voice from the gate. If for any reason you ended up in a relationship where that's not the case, you have to sit down with him and communicate to him how important your voice is to you, how important it is for you to feel heard, and hope that what you need is important enough to him to accommodate what you need. And also, the other half of this is, as a woman, we have to get clear on what our voice actually means, because having a voice does not mean being opinionated about any and everything. And that's a big one for us. Being a vocal woman does not mean you need to speak every time a topic comes up. You have to be very proficient at listening and knowing when it's important to share your opinion. I try and live by the rule of thumb, especially when you're dealing with your man, is if he's talking to you, allow the man to talk. Practice silence. Wait till he asks you, what do you think? Babe, why are you so quiet? You don't have anything to say. Let him uh, essentially kind of probe you for a response, because sometimes he's not looking for you to respond. He's looking for you to listen and absorb, and he's teaching right now. He's trying to provide you with information. So while he's telling you something, allow him to tell you something and receive it. All of those moments are not opportunities for you to give your opinion. Don't provide the opinion that's not asked for. That'll keep you in a highly desired place more often than not, because um, there are men that want to talk through their thoughts out loud, and there are men that want to teach. Both men want you to listen. So listen and try and remind yourself, I don't have an opinion unless he asks for it. Take that as an indicator he's not looking for an opinion, because a man that wants your opinion will say, what do you think? Or he'll say, did you hear me? But even in that case, when he says, did you hear me? You want to say, yes, I heard you. And positive feedback. I think that's a great idea. That's very creative. Even are you listening? Confirming that you're listening is not an opportunity to give your opinion. He's wanting to confirm that you heard him, you processed something. So that's an opportunity for essentially ego stroke. That's a good idea. Oh, I like that. Oh, okay, very interesting. I didn't know that. You see what I'm saying? And getting comfortable with that and waiting for him to inquire about your opinion before you provide it. That way, that's something you have to fall back on. That, if there for any reason he's like, I didn't really like that response. Well, I can understand that, but you did ask my opinion, and I'm like, I definitely never would want to steer you wrong. So I had to give you my honest opinion. And learn to practice that, because women, we have a tendency to mix the two, that you're taking my voice away if I can't have an opinion at every turn. If he's discussing business, you don't have an opinion. If he's discussing money, you don't have an opinion. Unless he's saying, okay, I'm getting ready to invest here and here and here. Babe, what you think? Wait for that. Be patient enough to wait for that. And a lot of women find it a bit of a turnoff to hear somebody say that, like, wait till he is asking you opinion before you offer it. I'm not a dog. I'm a person. I have, I'm entitled to my autonomy. That's not what this is about. This is how you demonstrate trust. This is how you demonstrate respect. This is how you show that you're not combative and challenging and doubtful of what he has to say every time he opens his mouth. Us women, we chatterbox with each other out of friendship, out of getting a feel for each other's personality and getting to know each other through our character. Men don't do that. They're very straight into the point. When they're talking, it's because they're trying to convey something important. They don't just shoot the breeze, typically. You know what I mean? Women tend to do that. So what we call opinions, they're actually thinking this is supposed to add to the conversation. This is supposed to suggest something. This is supposed to mean something. Women have a tendency to make comments that we don't necessarily think should be taken seriously, which means you shouldn't say them. You see what I'm saying? Not when you're having a conversation with your man. Again, it's a demonstration of respect to him that you're focused on the topic at hand and not saying random things. And an opinion is not always warranted. So allow that man to speak. If he wants feedback, he'll let you know he wants feedback. After you're with him for a certain amount of time, he will demonstrate to you what he looks like when he wants feedback. And then you can you can kind of get ahead of it once you know him a little bit. But other than that, wait for him to say, babe, what do you think? I want to get your opinion on this. He'll lead with that. Babe, come here. Let me show you something. Tell me what you think. But if he's not saying those things, typically what he's saying is to let you know where we are. This is a statement. Provide you with instruction. This is a statement. Make a suggestion. Statement. You see what I'm saying? These things are not things he wants to conversate about. He's saying this is what it is. And when you respond with an opinion to a man, it sounds like you're trying to refute, challenge, or you have doubt for what he is saying. It's not about you don't get permission to talk and you're being treated like a puppet. It's you have to understand how he receives information. And if you want him to respect your voice, you have to understand under what context your voice should be heard. And it could be something as simple as him not saying anything and he's going out the gate. And you're like, don't forget to close the gate. It's not a big deal to us. We're trying to remind you. We're trying to be helpful. But a man might receive that as you think he's irresponsible. So you also have to allow him to make mistakes. You see what I'm saying? Without an "I told you so," mind you. So understand what your voice actually is. Your voice is not constant opinion. Your voice is being honest, being clear and transparent when you're having a discussion, and being poised, graceful, and eloquent when you speak. That is your voice. Being opinionated at every turn, questioning everything, that's not your voice. That's you expressing insecurity that he will recognize as you don't trust him. And that can have a negative impact on the relationship. I read that one. My man wants me submissive. That's fine. But I have sat down and talked to him about my expectations. And then he tells me I should not have any expectations. Whoo! Again, the man you chose, is going to have a big impact on your experience. There are these types. There are the traditional man that's very much, when I'm speaking, you don't speak. You don't, you know what I mean? Being combative is a thing, over talking is a thing, like, you know what I mean? And then there are men that are more flexible, where they understand and appreciate not being more complex, but having more depth, should I say. So some of these men, when they share their perspectives with you and they tell you that, you have to understand that that's genuinely how he feels. So you may have to sit down with him and say, you said this to me, we had this conversation, and this is what you said. Do you honestly mean that? Or did you explain it wrong to me? I want to make sure I understand where you're coming from, and let him elaborate on what he means when he says that. And when he explains what that means, you have to discern if that's who you're choosing, and that's just what it is. Because if you're choosing this man, but then you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to change him, you're fighting an uphill battle, trying to create someone that he's already telling you is not there. If marriage is the goal, how do you find common ground, being the kind of wife you desire to be and the kind of wife he wants? I want to mirror the wife teaching of the Bible, but that's not what he wants. Conversation is the best option that you have. And the truth is, you have to be honest with yourself and not lie to yourself, because the truth is, you may not be with a person that is in support of the woman you desire to be. And if that's the case, then you have to decide if you're going to sacrifice the woman that you want to be the woman that he wants you to be, because that's typically the choice in relationships for us all. Is they have a desire for you to look like something, you have a desire for yourself to look like something. If those two people are not in alignment, somebody has to make a decision. Either you're going to compromise or conform, or you're going to say, that's not what I desire. I need something different. But that's a choice in of itself as to whether or not you're going to accommodate that. There are men that want submissive women. There are women that are not submissive. So if he wants a submissive woman and he's like, I don't want you challenging me at every corner, this is what I want our relationship to look like, and you're hearing it going, yeah, that's not me at all. That's not what type of existence I want to have in a relationship. You're either going to own that or you're going to accept what he's telling you he wants to see and start adapting. There's only really two decisions here. But the thing is many times when you sacrifice yourself and then that person does not reward you with peace and harmony in return, what turns around to happen is there's more demands essentially. And then you get upset because you're like, I just made all these changes. I don't work here anymore. I don't do this anymore. I don't do that anymore. And you're looking for more changes. You see what I'm saying? So we tend to think that when a person says, this is what I'm looking for, and then you decide, okay, well, I'm not going to be who I'm looking for. I'm going to be who you're looking for. We assume that once that person gets what they need, this is a guarantee of a harmonic relationship going forward. That may not be the case, because you have to leave a little bit of room for the fact that we're all trying to get to know ourselves as we go. And just like emotions, what we want and need are fleeting. Most people are not in alignment with themselves. Most people are not self-aware to the point to where they can tell you the exact type of person they are meant to be with. Most people are learning about that on the fly. So what is important is that you know who you are, who you want to be, and who you're building consistency in. So you can be happy with yourself, whether you have someone or whether you don't have someone. Because as long as you're adapting to what other people want to see and what they need, you're not securing and solidifying your own identity. You're essentially becoming a chameleon to adapt to the person that you're with. And there is a little bit of that involved in relationships within context, but it shouldn't be to the point to where you're a different human being with every person that you're with. You see what I'm saying? You're submissive here, you're rebellious here, you're, a doormat here, you know what I mean? There should be some consistency in your character. You see what I'm saying? And it's kind of ironic that you brought that up, because I'm actually writing about that very phenomena in my book, that typically when we're resolving issues in therapy is we focus on the conversation and say, okay, he needs to talk to her and they need to get clear on what each other needs, right? My challenge to that is I don't think that that's the starting point, because for me, the starting point is each person knowing who they are to begin with. Because if you don't have an identity, then you are whoever the environment and people that you respect and listen to have made you. That means what you want and need is a reflection of that as well, which means over the course of a few years, that is going to change likely. You see what I'm saying? Very few of us are in a relationship with somebody that's actually done their work to say, this is who I am. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is what I do and what I don't do. This has been consistent me for 10, 15, 20 years. You see what I'm saying? I've solidified who I am. I know how I show up in the world. I know what's my lane and what's not my lane. I know that's my thing. That's not my thing. Most people are still figuring their self out well into their 30s, well into their 40s, well into their 50s. And so when we go into therapy or coaching and we're like, okay, so you guys have a conversation about what needs you're not meeting and what needs you're not meeting. That sounds like the easiest solve, but essentially what you're saying is you adapt to what they need. They adapt to what you need. Who's to say that this is really what you need? You see what I'm saying? Think about having a type. When we're like, oh, this person is my type. How many times has your type changed? The height may be consistent, but you went through a phase where you like someone with long hair, you like someone with braids, you like someone with a taper, you like someone with a fade, you like someone with a beard, you like someone with glasses. You see what I'm saying? And it will change. There are some consistencies there. The part that's consistent is part of who you are. But there's also a part of you that is consistently changing because you don't know really what you like. So if you're in therapy and we're talking about He wants you to be submissive, but you're the type of girl that's free spirited. The conversation is going to be, you need to work on, taming that a little bit, because this person is feeling separate from you. This person is feeling this person is feeling that. But I believe that before you do couples therapy, you do individual therapy. I want to be clear that you're a free spirit to begin with. Are you a free spirit because this is a trend, or are you a free spirit because this is genuinely the essence and the bones, the pillar of your identity? You wouldn't feel alive. You couldn't check into your soul without being a free spirit. Those are two different things. You see what I'm saying? There are a lot of people that exist in the world and they show up as whatever the flavor is that month. You want a man that's a high value man because every other girl wants a man that's a high value man. When they decide that they want something else, what they will want is something else as well. You can't go to therapy like that. Now you're having him fight to make $100,000 a year when in 2 months the trend's going to change and that doesn't even matter to her anymore. What we need to formulate is our own identity to say, I'm a free spirit. I know I'm a homebody. I may go out on occasion. But I'm technically a homebody. That's where I prefer to be. So in my opinion, the identity of yourself needs to be established first, because only then will you understand where your partner's wants and needs fall, because what they want and need might be well within your range when you establish who you are out the gate and you're like, well, that's who I am anyway, so that's no big deal. But when you don't know who you are and you're listening to your partner say, I need this and I need this and I need this and I need this, and I don't like that you do this and you need to fix that, and I don't like that bad habit. It feels like you're being asked to rip down your whole existence and build yourself as somebody that you don't even recognize. And it feels that way because you don't know who you're looking at. You're only focused on what they want to see. You see what I'm saying? But if you have your identity solidified first, then you can say, oh, that's what you're looking for? Oh, yeah, no, that's not me. I'm sorry. Yeah, we made a mistake. Or you could say, oh, okay, well, that's not too bad. I mean, I don't do that all the time, but I do it sometimes. So I could do that a little bit more often. You know where you're flexible, where you're not flexible, versus not knowing who you are at all and trying to construct something to the satisfaction of another human being. That's where regrets come from, because then when the relationship breaks down, you're like, well, I did this and I did that for you, and I did this and I did that for you. You're upset because you built a person you weren't even, that you had no desire to be. You built someone just to achieve their satisfaction and their happiness. That's not how you solidify a relationship. That person has to love your essence as it is, not who they're capable of being, who they're able to build, if that makes sense. So at the end of the day, you have to decide really what your identity is. Is your identity to become the wife that he desires to see, or become the wife that you desire to be and find a partner that is happy with you as the wife that you desire to be? Because it's very difficult to maintain an identity that you don't even want. That becomes a job. And that's what it will feel like over time. And you hear people, that's where that conversation around losing yourself and all of that comes from. Women and men getting into relationships and building, customizing an identity specifically for their partner that they had no intention of becoming. It builds resentment and upset towards the partner, especially if you don't achieve the desired outcome. You're really upset at them because you didn't even get what you were supposed to get out of it for sacrificing. So you really have to be clear on why you're sacrificing and if this is genuinely who you want to be. Because if it's not, you're going to end up rejecting it at some point because that's not really what you want for yourself. So it's a big decision, and it happens too often. That's why relationships break down in the long run, because they've changed themselves in a way that they did not want to, and it's not achieving what they hoped it would. So now they're reverting back to where they're comfortable, their true identity. There are so many types of men. How are we classifying? Well, we weren't discussing classifications, Green Eyes. I don't know if you've been watching since the beginning, but I was talking about two different types of men, traditional versus non-traditional. And there's really only two types when it comes to that discussion. They either will fall under traditional or they will fall under non-traditional. We're not talking about anything more specific than that. There are different types of people in general, but there are men that want to hear the opinions of their spouse and be more of a partnership in relationship. And then there are men that don't want to hear the opinions of their spouse in relationship. So you're literally going to get one or the other. No problem, Green Eyes. Is this Q&A or therapy? I'm trying to understand. It's Q&A, but I was answering a question, and I'm also a life coach, so it may have come off like therapy, but it's Q&A. I'm just answering a question. Do you believe the sandwich effect, positive, negative, positive, can work in a proper communication when not in agreement with your partner? First, I'll have to say I'll have to do a little bit more research. I'm not really familiar with the sandwich effect. Can work in proper communication when not in agreement with your partner. So I have to look into it. Give me a second. I'm here. I have a little bit of time. Okay, the sandwich effect and feedback refers to delivering negative or constructive criticism by framing it between two layers of positive feedback, aiming to soften the blow and make the recipient more receptive. Here's a breakdown. Core idea: the technique involves starting with a positive feedback and then presenting a negative or constructive feedback, and then finally concluding with another positive statement. The term sandwich comes from an analogy placing the negative feedback, the filling between the two slices of bread, the positive feedback. The purpose is to create a positive and less defensive environment for delivering feedback, potentially leading to a better acceptance and understanding. A manager might say, I appreciate your hard work on this project, especially your dedication. However, I noticed that for your improvement, sorry. However, I noticed that, and it says area of improvement can be improved by making a suggestion. On the other hand, I really value your ability to positive skill in context. Absolutely, absolutely. Honestly, I it, yes, to answer your question, I definitely think that that is an effective method to use. I 100% believe that it disarms your person. I try and keep and I kind of implement this without, I guess, the last positive comment. Um, but I always would say if there's some type of criticism or correction that needs to be made, the conversation should start with a positive. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a comment, or compliment. But let's say, for example, you're in the kitchen, long day, you're cooking dinner, the kids are bouncing off the walls, and you know how like a man may come home and his issue is the house is a mess, right? And he wants to know, why didn't you clean? You know? So the trigger would be, babe, I mean, the house is a mess. What did you do all day? You are setting yourself up to, for lack of better words, get blasted. Like, all of that frustration that she has been holding in her body all day and trying not to aim it at the wrong person is coming straight for you, right? versus coming home and seeing the mess, seeing the kids bouncing off the walls, seeing her over the stove, coming into the kitchen, wrapping your arms around her waist and giving her a kiss on the cheek and going, "Hey, babe, it's good to see you. Are you okay? What's wrong? Can I help you with anything?" And she may say, "Why you say that?" "Well, it's not like you. You know, it seems a little chaotic in here. I just want to know, do you need me to help with anything?" Now, your initial feedback would have been a criticism. If you were talking about the cleanliness of the environment, let's say, right? But the disarming comment is something more along the lines of a, "What's wrong? Can I be of assistance? Do you need anything?" And if there was any built up and pent up stress, if there was any I'm on the verge of meltdown in that moment, that energy of being curious, being inquisitive, that energy of willingness to assist will easily cancel out all that negative energy that might have been pent up prior to you entering the room. So I don't necessarily follow the sandwich guideline to the letter, but I definitely agree that for women, a "what's wrong" will snap her out of her emotional um, place that she's in, whether it be to ask you, what made you ask what's wrong? And then you point out where she excels. Normally, everything is in order and the house usually looks like this, da, 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 da. But I figured, with everything how it is now, maybe you're not okay. I want to make sure you're okay. As opposed to saying, "What have you done all day?" You see what I'm saying? Now the focus is on her well-being, and she's able to receive that substantially better. You see what I'm saying? So yes, I believe the sandwich method works. It would probably boost this method even more if you had a complimenting thing to say at the back end. But here's the thing and the truth, that yes, this method works. Yes, it's the best way to convey something that may be perceived as negative or constructive criticism. However, there are people that are so traumatized and so negatively impacted and have not done the work to heal themselves that they will see something negative regardless of what you say. A healed person, a person that's in the process of healing, a person that is in the optimism of themselves, the positivity, the harmony of themselves, is going to work very hard to see the positive in the situation. Someone that's in their negative self, their lower vibration, is not going to take too much of anything for them to see something negative. So, in the same breath, if a husband comes home and he sees the house a mess, instead of him saying, "What have you done all day?" somebody in their positive energy will walk in and say, "Woo, oh yeah, my wife must be sick. She must have had a bad day. Something must be wrong, because this is not how my wife roll. Let me go check on her and make sure she all right." Instead of coming home like, "Really? I can't believe I came home and ain't no food made." You know what I mean? Knowing your wife well enough to say, "She didn't cook. Dang, let me see if she all right." That's not like her at all. You see what I'm saying? And giving the benefit of the doubt is a big thing in relationships as well. We tend to think that we know better. No, because a person that does this, that means that they this, that, and the third. That doesn't mean that. Everybody conveys who they are in a different way. Everybody's anger doesn't look the same. Sadness doesn't look the same. Confusion, upset does not look the same. Some people that are hurt are angry. Some people, you know what I mean, that are confused look sad. So you can't assume that just because your track record has demonstrated to you that you know exactly how people look when they're in a particular emotion. So much so that when you say, "What's wrong with you?" and they say, "I feel like this," and you're like, "No, you don't. You want to argue with them about how they feel. You want to tell them who they are. And that is never somewhere that you want to be in a conversation. Even if they have established patterns, you have no right to argue with them about what they're telling you. You don't have to believe them, but arguing with them about what they say is going on is a waste of everyone's time. If they say I did this for this and this reason, it doesn't matter if it makes sense to you. They're telling you why they did it. Accept that. You will literally save yourself, excuse me, a whole lot of argument if you would just believe them when they tell you and not always think there's something deeper, there's something else to explain, there's something else to ask. And not everybody is deep in their thoughts in regards to everything. Some people are very surface based. Some people think things all the way through. Some people think things halfway. You have to learn those things about your partner. Some people are impulsive. Some people plan, and some people plan excessively. They have plans for their plans. You should know your partner well enough to not argue with them when they say, I didn't do this because that made me nervous. Well, what were you nervous about? They just said it made them nervous. What you got pushback for? I was scared. Scared of what? Your partner tell you that they didn't tell you something because they were scared you're going to get mad. What's the point in getting mad? There's no point in getting mad about a person and how they explain to you they're showing up. They're telling you what it is. Accept what it is. If it needs to be modified, then have a conversation about how those modifications need to be made and why. Not criticize them for operating in a way that doesn't work for you. Just let them know this is how I receive it when this is the communication. It creates a misunderstanding. It will be easier for me if you did this. I will understand better if you did this. I will be clearer if you did this. Offer them a couple of options so they can decide what works for them and operate in a way that says that they would like to be clear with you. Green Eye says arguing is different from communication. It's not a dictatorship situation. Well, I mean, arguing and communication are completely separate from a dictator situation entirely. You can have a conversation and you can have an argument without anybody being a dictator. Thank you so much for that question, Deshelle, though. You opened up my eyes to something I had never heard of, the sandwich effect. So I appreciate you bringing that to my awareness. I definitely do believe it is an effective method. And I believe that it's effective for people that need to be disarmed. What I like to say is, even when it comes to insecurities and when it comes to defensiveness or somebody that's deflecting, is we tend to point this out like it's something to discuss. Oh my God, you're so insecure. Oh my gosh, you're being so defensive. These are things for you to identify and understand. These are not things for you to tell your partner about like they have a problem. And don't get me wrong, defensiveness can become a problem. Deflecting can become a problem. But when you're conversing with another person, you have to understand that if a person is being defensive, that means they feel the need to protect themselves, which means there's something that was said that made them feel that they needed to protect themselves. So you're not helping the situation by saying, oh my God, you're being so defensive. Why don't you take a step back and say, gosh, they're displaying defensive tendencies. What about this conversation could have made them defensive? What about this conversation could have made them want to protect themselves? Or you can just flat out ask them, hold on, break, time out. Listen, obviously, I said something to make you feel attacked. It's not my intention at all. I'm just trying to convey how I felt in this particular experience. Can you please tell me what I might have said or done to make you feel like you were being attacked by me? Because I promise you that is not my intention. I'm just trying to express how I feel as a result of events that just happened. But I want to make sure that I understand you, because I understand that if a person gets defensive, we're not going to get anywhere. And I genuinely want to be heard, but I also want you to feel like no one is trying to hurt you. Boom. Let that person say, you know what, when you said this, I felt like you were accusing me of something. Clear that up. I can completely understand how you felt like I was trying to accuse you of something. Bear with me. I'm in my emotions. And even though I'm not trying to accuse you of anything, it probably does sound like that because my emotions are still running high. I apologize for that. I just want to understand where this might be coming from or why those things played out the way that they did. Because when you trigger someone and they become defensive, and then you turn around and accuse them of being defensive, it's as if to say they don't have any reason to be defensive. If a red flag went up and they saw it and reacted to it, they have reason for being defensive. Calling them defensive is just going to escalate the situation. If someone is looking for validation and you're like, oh my God, you're insecure, how does that help? They're coming to you for validation. What does telling them they're insecure supposed to do? They're already identifying they're insecure because they're asking you for validation. They're coming to you for what they need because something's bothering them, which is what they should do if they're in a relationship and they want to be understood by their partner. We're in a time and day and situation where we've learned insecure, we've learned gaslighting and manipulating and those kind of things. So we like to point a finger and say, I caught you doing this. You gaslighting me. You doing this. But these are indicators of things. Not to say that people don't operate out of malicious intent, because they do. But most do not. Most do not wake up and say, you know what, I'm going to manipulate this person. Just wait. I'm going to tell them everything that they need to hear. People are desperate. People are scared. People don't think that they'll be loved and supported as who they are authentically. So they become something else. That is manipulation, but it's not maliciously intended. People are typically manipulative when they're trying to hide who they are for fear of lack of acceptance, more so than they are manipulative because they're trying to take advantage of you. So when you see somebody, even your kids, when you see your kid lying about something, the important thing is learning why they lied, then jumping on them for lying. Because if you learn that they lie to avoid getting in trouble, that means you can avoid them lying by letting them know that they're not in trouble. You just want information. You see what I'm saying? The same is true as an adult, and we don't know that we become adults and carry these same coping mechanisms. So you will run into an adult that lies to avoid trouble because they didn't outgrow that as a child. Nobody ever made them feel secure enough to tell the truth, which means the worst consequences always fell on them when they told the truth. So they still lie to avoid consequences. While it may show immaturity, it also shows they have a fear of the backlash coming from someone that they truly care about and or respect. And to avoid that, they will be dishonest. That's not the same thing as lying to a person, just for the heck of it. Lying to protect yourself because you're afraid means that their character has to go through some growth and evolution. Being defensive because you feel attacked in your character and in your spirit, while it may be equally as immature, it's not the same thing as somebody being defensive to gaslight you. because they want you to think that you're creating this phenomena for them and you're not. You see what I'm saying? There are very few of those people. Most people are defensive because they feel attacked by you. You don't get to tell them what they feel attacked by. People feel insecure around things that make them feel inferior. Pointing out that they're insecure does not fix it. You have to understand that if you're an intellectual being and you're strutting your intellectual prowess, if you're around individuals that are not as comfortable in their voice and in their intellect, they will feel small standing next to you. And some people will project onto you because they feel small. And they will project that you're making them feel small on purpose, but that's not your intention. But that's how they experience being around you. You see what I'm saying? So you have to understand that if you're in a relationship, if you're a blunt person, oh, I'm a blunt person, I tell it like it is. Okay, so for some people, that's easy to receive because they tell it like it is as well. But there are also people that find it harsh because they exist in the world avoiding conflict. So they don't know how to be that brutally honest. They are used to conforming to meet the needs of others. So when you approach them being a straight shooter, as you will, being straightforward, to them, it's intimidating. They will deflect just off of fear. They don't know how to handle all that straightforward energy because they're conflict avoidant. You see what I'm saying? So these things are worth knowing. People aren't squeamish and squirming because they're trying to deceive you. These are indicators of a person's discomfort. And if you actually love this person, you will understand what makes them uncomfortable. Try your best to keep them in a comfortable setting so you can get what you need, and so can they. But if you're learning this just so you can call somebody out, you'll never be able to be in a healed relationship, in a healthy relationship, because your goal is to point out somebody's flaws instead of understanding why they're existing in the first place, and understand it so you can understand where they are, understand yourself so you can understand that maybe the technique you're using to communicate with them does not work. It's actually triggering them. You may be who you are, but there is a specific personality type that your personality type doesn't work for. It actually, your existence triggers them. Sometimes y'all end up in a relationship together. You get a talker with somebody who doesn't like to talk about how they feel, a real shut down person. Those people get put together in a relationship. The person that likes to talk, they're irritated because their partner never wants to talk. And the person that doesn't want to talk is irritated by the person that wants to talk because they're always trying to make them talk about their feelings and they don't want to. But they both need to learn something from the other one. The one that doesn't like to talk has to learn to step into their voice, get comfortable with speaking, gain confidence with being transparent and clear about their emotions and how they feel so they can get what they need, because closed mouth don't get fed. The person that's comfortable with talking has to learn to be proficient in listening. People that are very eloquent with their words, their biggest challenge is shutting up. It doesn't matter where you are developed in your life. You have some weak points that you need to develop. And oftentimes you will be in a relationship with the same person every time, because they're there to shape you in the area that you need development. People that are serious tend to be in relationships with people that don't take life seriously, because the person that doesn't take life seriously needs to learn when to get down to business. The person that knows when to get down to business needs to learn to let their hair down from time to time. So that's how that works. So in a relationship, having a safe space in your partner, absolutely, having a safe place. If I can get it out, having a safe space in their partner is very important. Absolutely. I'm going to leave. This seems projected. I was looking for a Q&A. Great night. You have a great night as well, Green Eyes. This is a Q&A, and I've been answering questions since I've been on here. If you would like to ask a question for me to answer, then I will be happy to answer the question. But right now, I'm answering questions that have been presented by other people. But if you are leaving, you have a wonderful night, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Oh, well, while I'm talking, I guess everybody, we're going to have a great night. It's 8:40 and the time went by so quick. I appreciate everyone that my words have just been, I've been stumbling over my words all day today. I appreciate everybody that participated in this live. These questions have been off of the charts. Like, oh my goodness. Like, I appreciate it. They've been amazing. Miss Deshelle had some awesome questions. Brittany, I thank you for bringing it home with that last one. And to reiterate again, yes, in a relationship, having a safe space in your partner is paramount. It's very important. And right now, with all the language and verbiage that we're learning, we are less likely to create a safe space for our person and more likely to create another war that our partner has to fight, which creates distance and separation in relationships. These terms were put out here so we can have an understanding as to what they mean and how we can navigate them with our partner, not so we have more ways to criticize and be judgmental towards our partners. It's supposed to help with understanding so you can better have an idea as to what your partner needs. Not only that, but so they can understand the same about you. Hello, Ona. I do apologize. I didn't see you come in. Hello, and thank you for joining us this evening. I appreciate you coming in. Ladies, I appreciate you guys again. You guys have a wonderful evening. We'll be doing another Q&A as early as Monday, I want to say. And yeah, so on Monday, we'll definitely be doing another Q&A on Monday. I appreciate you guys so much. This was amazing. We had some really dope questions tonight. Kiss your babies, enjoy some good dinner, spend some quality time, and relax and replenish yourself for the rest of the evening. Don't also forget, please don't forget, to acknowledge, to rebuild, and to evolve. Everything is for your betterment. We all hear things that we don't want to hear. We all hear things that may challenge our perspective. But instead of initiating an argument against what you're receiving, ask yourself, is it beneficial before you rule it out? Because sometimes other people have the information we need to get to a better level of wholeness within ourselves. And when you reject truths because you don't want to accept it, you are essentially deciding to maintain being the same. And while it's not a problem, it can leave you behind because everyone else that's not making that decision are essentially moving beyond you. And we want to grow. We want to elevate. We want to evolve. We want to achieve our highest vibration, if that's even your goal. But these things have to be understood. And you can't achieve that without processing some truths about yourself, processing truths about others. It also helps you be more empathetic towards yourself and the world around you. So you have less of a tendency to pass judgment and be critical because you lack understanding. Even if you don't want to change your perspective, you should still listen to truth because it will allow you to gain perspective for how others see the world. And that will always be a positive to gain knowledge to contribute to your wisdom. You guys have a wonderful evening, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.